Welcome back. It's 23 minutes to 3 o'clock now. The Southern African Development Community leaders are set to hold an extraordinary summit in Maputo in Mozambique tomorrow. They are expected to discuss issues of regional integration, of course, and the ongoing crisis in Mozambique's northern Cabo Delgado province, among other issues. Let's get some analysis now. We're joined by Professor Adriano Nuvunga from the Mozambique Center of Democracy and Development in Maputo. Adriano, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time. Welcome to the Midday View on here on eNCA. Finally, the SADC meeting is happening again, but they've been starting to talk. They started to talk, rather, from last month and the month before. Is it fair to expect that this particular meeting now must lead to real action?
Good afternoon. Unlikely. Unlikely because if you look at the framing of this summit, it's an extraordinary summit of heads of state and government. And if you look at the theme of this summit, it is different from the previous Troika meetings on the 7th of April and the 27th of May, when the subject of this meeting, of those meetings, it was about the violent extremism in Mozambique.
So what's different? What's different with this one? What's different with tomorrow's one?
The big difference is that this is, in our view, a celebratory summit.
Celebrating what?
Of the 40 years of SADC. This is not a meeting dedicated to Mozambique's violent extremism.
Hold on, Prof. Hold on. Just to understand. So, we last in May, when the last meeting happened on Mozambique's challenges in Cabo Delgado, the SADC summit said they will continue in June. Now they are meeting in June, but you are saying the whole umbrella, the theme is around celebrating 40 years of SADC.
Precisely, that's what I'm saying. And if you look at the format of the two previous meetings, there were the double Troika summit that was dedicated to discuss violent extremism in northern Mozambique. After SADC's double Troika meeting decided to immediately deploy a technical deployment for needs assessment, and then people have been expecting that on the summit initially scheduled to take place on the 28th of April, which was then rescheduled to 27th of May, there would have been taken the decision, because there was a report on table that was presented by the technical deployment by SADC. And we were disappointed that at that meeting, instead of taking that vital decision, they decided to meet again and to discuss the matters of the violent extremism later on. And looking at this summit, you will see a clear discontinuity. It is the summit where they will celebrate, and if you look at the actual agenda of the meeting, it is clear. It is a celebratory meeting where the Mozambique will pass on the testimony to the next chairmanship of SADC. So it is not the meeting to discuss the violent extremism in northern Mozambique. If you look at the agenda, this issue, it can be discussed among so many other issues.
And it's such a major issue. That's disappointing to hear, Adriano. And I'm just wondering, why would Mozambique host a summit on the back of the one in May where the double troika presented a report or was presented with a report, why would it hold it now when it's got this issue in Cabo Delgado and not want it to be center of the agenda, to be the core thing? Is it because the Mozambican government remains reluctant to bring in SADC military intervention in Cabo Delgado?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's been a disappointment at how Mozambique's government is not utilizing the fact that it chairs SADC to empower SADC to have a full engagement. And in fact, when there was a technical deployment and the report was on table, we expected that Mozambique would take one of the options on table. And as I've indicated, there is a clear disappointment, and there is also apparently an understanding within SADC that Mozambique is not willing to have SADC have an important role in helping Mozambique to solve the violent extremism in northern Cabo Delgado.
Now, Adriano, in your view, sorry to come in there. Adriano, sorry to come in there. Just, I don't want to lose this point. What would it then take? What would SADC have to do to persuade Mozambique's leaders that they need a comprehensive SADC intervention? Because the conflict in Cabo Delgado is damaging to Mozambique. We know what it has done from a humanitarian perspective to an economic perspective, and is also a threat to the rest of the region.
Not only that. The point is that Mozambique, in our view, cannot address the root causes of violent extremism in northern Mozambique without direct involvement of SADC. Mozambique borders with several states, and it is only in the framework of SADC that governance issues with neighboring countries, but more importantly, to have the support that Mozambique needs in terms of intelligence, but more importantly, to have the support of neighboring countries to stop any possible movements of the violent extremism in the region. So that it has no other place to be addressed than SADC.
Okay.
But it is disappointing that Mozambique seems to be preferring to bring support from outside SADC. We see that Rwanda seems to be positioning itself to have a role in Mozambique. And this is not right because Rwanda is not part.
Why does the Frelimo government of President Philip Nyusi want Rwanda to be involved?
This is what we see that is taking shape. That Mozambique would prefer to partner with Rwanda, which is outside SADC. The reasons are not yet clear, but apparently this seems to be the situation. Okay. I'm not saying Rwanda cannot support, but if Rwanda is to be supported, that should come after SADC has exhausted its capacity to help Mozambique, and then it escalated to the African Union, and within the framework of the African Union, Rwanda could be involved to participate.
Yeah, finally,
but the current format of Rwanda's involvement, that seems not to be right.
Yeah, finally, and thanks very much for giving us so much of your time, Adriano. Finally, and very briefly, if you may, I mean, one would have thought it's common sense and logical. Mozambique is a member state of SADC. SADC neighbors are also could be threatened by this violence. And as a member state, you should welcome the support of the body that you belong to. And currently, you've been chairing, as you said. President Nyusi has been the current chair of SADC. But be that as it may, very briefly, what is the situation on the ground currently? in Cabo Delgado. I mean, the whole world noticed it about 3 or so months ago when the town of Palma was attacked by the insurgents. And everybody noticed that Cabo Delgado has been burning, forgetting that the conflict started in 2017. And it has been getting worse and worse. So currently, very briefly, what's the situation on the ground from what you are picking up in Maputo?
The situation is dormant, but very volatile, with attacks here and there, and humanitarian crisis to be addressed. So, as it stands now, the root causes of the problem are not being addressed, and there is some support to address humanitarian crisis, but this would be the right time, with a bit of calm, for SADC, bringing all Mozambique's neighboring countries to sit and address the root causes of the violent extremism there, and taking the advice from Tanzania, which says dialogue, multi-stakeholder dialogue is the way forward and not further militarization.
Thank you very much for your insights, as usual, and your time. Professor Adriano Nuvunga, he's, of course, the head of the Center of Democracy and Development in Maputo.